I will also give it another spin, and then I can make my formal remarks. It is interesting that this building sits where it is. Very few people take cognizance of the fact that on my right-hand side is the symbol of justice, the judiciary, a critical arm of good governance. On my left, you will have the legislature, the symbol of democracy. And in front, you have the City Hall, signifying the capital city of Nairobi. And on this row, where KICC is, all the way to the office of the President, along Harambee, you signify the executive. So KICC is so strategically placed. The symbolism is significant. Kenya is a country that respects the rule of law. Kenya is a country that stands on democracy, parliament. Kenya is proud of its capital city. So the executive, the judiciary, the legislature, and the city, representing the citizens, must always work together. So there's a lot of symbolism as we stand here today. So let me make my formal remarks. It gives me great pleasure to join you here today at the Kenyatta International Convention Center for this important and symbolic occasion, the official handover of the venue for the Africa Forward Summit 2026, which Kenya will proudly host on the 11th and 12th of May here in Nairobi. Allow me at the outset to express my sincere appreciation to the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife under the leadership of my colleague, Honorable Rebecca Miano, the management and staff of KICC, the Summit Secretariat, our partners from the Government of France, the security agencies, protocol teams, technical teams, and all institutions that have worked tirelessly over the past several months to prepare Kenya for this historic moment. Over the next few days, this venue will host more than 30 heads of state and government, over 4,000 delegates, global business leaders, innovators, multilateral institutions, development partners, civil society actors, entrepreneurs, media, and young leaders from across Africa, France, and the wider international community. For Kenya, this is not simply another summit. The Africa Forward Summit represents a defining statement about where Africa is headed, how Africa intends to engage the world, and the kind of partnership that must shape the future of global cooperation. Kenya is deeply honored to co-host this summit alongside the Republic of France under the leadership of His Excellency President William Ruto and His Excellency President Emmanuel Macron. Importantly, this will be the first summit of its kind to be hosted in Anglophone Africa, a significant milestone that reflects the broadening and deepening Africa-France engagement across the continent. Over the course of the summit, leaders will engage around 7 strategic thematic areas that are shaping Africa's future. These include reform of the international financial architecture, energy transition and green industrialization, the blue economy, sustainable agriculture and food systems, artificial intelligence, digital technologies, resilient health systems, as well as peace and security. The summit will also place strong emphasis on the role of the private sector. Governments can provide policy direction and enabling environments, but sustainable transformation at scale will be driven by investment, enterprise, innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. That is why the Africa Forward Summit includes a major business forum expected to bring together approximately 1,500 business leaders, CEOs, investors, entrepreneurs, and innovators from Africa and France. We expect the summit to catalyze investment pipelines, commercial partnerships, technology transfer, financing opportunities, and new areas of economic cooperation across multiple sectors. We are determined to deliver visible, life-changing outcomes, new jobs, thriving industries, empowered African enterprises, improved livelihoods, and a brighter future for our citizens. Ultimately, outcomes that demonstrate that diplomacy must ultimately deliver value to citizens. Kenya is proud to host this summit because we believe deeply in the transformative power of purposeful convening. Throughout history, nations and cities that convene important global conversations often help shape future outcomes. Nairobi has increasingly emerged as one of Africa's leading diplomatic, financial, innovation, and multilateral capitals. From peace diplomacy to climate action, technology, entrepreneurship, development finance, and regional cooperation, Nairobi continues to serve as a strategic gateway between Africa and the world. For a moment, just imagine if you are living in a capital that does not host such gatherings. That's the flip side. Just imagine. The rest is up to you. To our partners from France, development institutions, the private sector, and all participating countries, we thank you for your collaboration and confidence in Kenya as host of this important summit. To the media, your role remains critical. You are not merely covering an event. And I repeat, you are not merely covering an event. You are helping shape global understanding of what this moment represents for Africa and for the future of international partnerships. We encourage you to engage deeply, ask difficult questions, and help communicate not only the ambition of this summit, but also its practical significance for citizens across the continent. Ultimately, the success of the Africa Forward Summit will be defined by the transformative outcomes we achieve together. We expect this historic gathering to deliver strong, actionable partnerships that drive meaningful and lasting progress for the people of Kenya, real opportunities and hope for our young people, unlocking their immense potential, significant new investments that fuel growth and prosperity across the continent, stronger and more competitive African industries ready to thrive in the global economy, deeper trust and understanding between nations, and finally, bold future-ready partnerships that enable Africa to seize every opportunity and overcome every challenge in our rapidly changing world. Ladies and gentlemen, let this summit ignite a new spirit of African confidence and global partnership. Let it mark the beginning of an era where Africa does not merely participate in the future, but leads it with vision, innovation, and determination. Kenya stands ready. Africa stands ready. Vibrant, resilient, and full of unstoppable promise. And this great venue now officially stands ready to welcome the continent and the world to the Africa Forward Summit 2026. Thank you. God bless Kenya, Africa, France, and the world. Asante sana. All right. There are questions to be answered. I will leave that difficult part to these good men and women.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you, Excellency, for your extremely wise words and for your guidance. I recognize senior members of the Fourth Estate. I recognize in particular the CEO of Nation Group, who's graciously agreed to join us, partnering with them as well, and with many of the media here present. I think we have to visit several other venues. As you know, this event or this summit is happening across 3 or 4 venues which we need to visit. So kindly let me just give space to 2 or 3 questions at most. There is a ceremony first. I've been guided that there is a ceremony. Yeah? Why don't we do the question? Okay, let's do that. All right, let's take the questions.
Thank you, PS. My name is Seth Olale. I work for Citizen TV. Congratulations to MFA, Government of Kenya, and everyone involved in the hosting. In regards to where we stand in, I won't say affiliation, but I would call it relation. And we're seeing the French now turning east in terms of, networking, what you say, diplomatic relations and all that. But also there's a perception that perhaps, it is a new venture, for the West in terms of their influence in this particular region, and now Nairobi being a very strategic diplomatic hub and capital. What do you have to say in regards to some of these perceptions that we saw what happened in West Africa, the coup d'etat and all the likes. Now the French are turning east to Africa. How do we address this? Our interests lie.
Thank you, Seth. Just to say that we're in a very unique moment globally. The global environment is in a state of flux. The global order is shifting. And so every country is rethinking its engagements. I think one cannot problematize the reimagination on the part of France with respect to her relationship with Africa. It's something that has evolved over the years. France has been present on the continent through particularly the private sector in this region. But I think even politically, one cannot quibble with the fact that given the changes we are witnesses to, all our countries, including Africa, we are reimagining how we relate. And so this is just a pragmatic decision that appreciates the change reality and the need for even deeper, agile, and strategic partnerships. Of course, France has a lot to offer. and I will leave that to the conference to speak to it. But given the areas that we have prioritized, whether you're talking green industrialization and energy and stable industrial scale energy, the issues that we will discuss around the blue economy, around health, all these issues, France has immense capacity. And as Africa, we are saying, we will discuss and we will agree on how we can be able to work together. So that's the spirit with which this summit is being held. It's all about mutually beneficial partnership based on equality and respect. And it's forward-looking, forward-leaning, away from focusing too much on the classical relationships of the past. Next question. Yes. Yeah. Just come close a bit.
OPS and output. My name is Boniface Mwali, and I have two questions for His Excellency Ambassador. First question around the research center that is in development at the University of Nairobi. So could you speak to that as well and how far those plans are?
Thank you for your question, and then let me, on the onset, totally align with what the PS has said in terms of this summit being critical in a very turbulent and fragmented world to forge new partnerships, mutually beneficial, equality-based, and then looking forward as to redefine our partnership between France and our African partners. So now to your question on the outcomes of the summit, I think you'll see a different series of outcomes because, as mentioned, it is not a traditional summit. We're innovating in a way. We're bringing the captains of industry, the business sector, the movers and shakers of the relation between France and Africa to the table. And so there's no we're breaking silos in terms of discussions. We want to bring the private sector leaders into the conversation with heads of government. We want to bring the youth. We'll have a youth forum as well. So it's part of one conversation. So what can you expect, I think, is a series of announcements first from the private sector, series of deals, partnerships between French companies, African companies. There will be a number for Kenya of new commitments from France, from private and public sector to Kenya. There will be a number and a commitment from France to Africa. So you can expect that. You can expect also a call for action that will come out of the discussion of heads of state and government, but fed by the conversation also with the private sector. And this call of action, especially on the matter of reforming the international financial architecture, will be taken to the G7 summit, that France will host in June in Evian, and Kenya will be invited to articulate the Kenyan position. So you can expect three kind of outcomes of that nature. Then your question of the University of Nairobi, thank you for asking. It is also part of the summit, but we want to bring this conversation to a venue that symbolizes education, skilling, and what we're trying to bring is, the wakubwa, but we also bring opportunities for the young people of Africa to nurture their skills, their talents, but also forging opportunities through partnerships. And France and Kenya have a very solid partnership when it comes to education. France is heavily invested in the University of Nairobi, UON. We're going to break ground, the two presidents will be breaking ground on a new science and engineering complex within the Shiromo campus. And this will be the state-of-the-art science center of excellence in Kenya, I believe, but also in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Final question.
Oh, you can hear me, yeah.
A question to the ambassador for France. When you look at trade between France and Africa, you're talking about total volume of about 65 billion euros. When you compare the trade between France and Germany, it's also about 165 billion euros. How do you plan to see that you don't just end up importing raw materials from Africa and exporting the same finished product? Number two, on Kenya first, China is now offering 53 African countries 50 access to 1.2 billion. Kenya, are we also looking at, well, I know there is a yeah. But there are a lot of restrictions. How are we planning to use brands to try and get free access to the European market? Thank you for your question. You can look at and you're right, under the lenses of trade, and I think our bilateral trade now is fairly balanced. I think we export as much as we import this year with Kenya. But you can look at also, the economic partnership or relationship between France and Kenya. You can look at it on a different angle, which I think is more significant and more telling. It's the investment side. France, and I heard sometimes, but I heard from your question that France is moving east. France has been here in Kenya, and we have not discovered Kenya yesterday or the day before. France is the fourth largest investor in this country. We have 150 companies present here in Kenya, investing in Kenya, hiring Kenyan. More than 36,000 Kenyan are being hired directly by French company in this country. So if you look at this investment angle, you'll see it is a vote of confidence by French capital to the local capacity to manufacture, produce, and eventually export here in Kenya. And I think it's more significant than just looking at trade relations. Now, that doesn't mean we don't look at trade. I think you mentioned there's an economic partnership agreement between the EU and Kenya that was signed 2 years ago, and I must commend the authorities of Kenya that pushed that negotiation to a close because it was a long-standing issue. But this summit also is an opportunity to bring opportunities and new markets for Kenyan products. We have this. We have embarked in this project called Geographical Indications. While we're going to try to brand some of your specialty tea, like the champagne, and then export it to mature markets such as France. We also looking at sourcing some of your agricultural products, to some of our Indian Ocean territories, such as Mayotte, which, by the way, is connected by Kenya Airways four times a week. So those are the kind of concrete, tangible results that this summit will catalyze, will improve connectivity in terms of trade and investment between our two countries.
Thank you very much. There's a lot more to say and a lot more to hear tomorrow and the days following. But I with a lot of humility, let me request that we terminate that session. Let's do this small ceremony so that the Prime Cabinet Secretary can deal with other very urgent business. Yes, please.
So we'll now hand over the venue.